Did you expect ranked choice voting to impact this race as much as it has right now with these razor-thin margins?
Yes, I said it back in June, publicly.
And what do you think about this outcome?
Well, I think that the campaign that was run by both of the major political parties was very traditional, and I think that leads the district to reflect how it is, which is sort of torn between both of those stances.
You've got two independents, yourself and Will Hoare,
yes,
taking up what I believe is about 8% total?
Yes,
and
although taking up might be the wrong words.
Well, at this point, that could be very decisive.
Yeah.
How do you see this playing out?
My voters will decide this election.
Yeah. And I mean, would you prefer to see it go one way or another?
Well, I think that's a hard question to ask. So I don't think that Bruce Poliquin should be making law. I didn't pay attention much prior to starting a couple years ago, and I've watched his votes and I've read the bills that he votes on, and I feel like he votes in ways that tell me that he's either not paying attention to detail or he doesn't care, because a lot of the things that are there aren't just I'm a conservative or I'm a liberal. A lot of the things there are things that don't benefit the government tremendously but are harmful. And it's not just him that does it, you know, Democrats, Republicans, but specifically his votes. He's voted for some things that were needlessly harmful. They didn't need to harm vulnerable populations because there wasn't a benefit to doing so. And that bothers me. That frustrates me as somebody who has kind of a weird love affair with the law.
We had so much, I guess, hype, so to speak, about ranked choice voting.
We did.
With the three federal elections. Really the only one that it made a very significant impact in is this one.
Yes.
Did you expect that?
Yes.
Why?
Why did I expect it in this race, or why didn't I expect it in the other ones?
Both.
Well, I think that whether you do or don't like Angus, I think that he feels like Maine.
Okay.
Right? And I thought it would be very improbable for him to get under 50%. Shelley is in a D+8 district, and I think that she reflects her party's values and she reflects the district's values. So I think that you know, expecting her to finish below 50% was also unrealistic. I think that Marty ran a great campaign. It was nice to see another independent in the race, but I think that ultimately Shelley really reflected the district. I think the 2nd congressional district, there's a lot of so my voters are a mix, and they fall into several categories, but the two biggest, and there's quite a few categories, the two biggest, I think there's a lot of people who either are conservative or lean conservative, but maybe they're not happy with what the Republican Party is doing. They are fiscally conservative, and there's not a lot of fiscally conservative choices there, and that's problematic for them. They just don't like the rhetoric and the snark that's happening right now and the divisiveness. I also think there's a lot of people that I appeal to that maybe wouldn't have voted otherwise. People who are independents, you know, in Maine we have more unenrolled than either Republicans or Democrats. And there's just not really been a candidate for that, and ranked choice voting lets that happen. So when you said earlier that, you know, there was a vote share, I think that it was more that some people turned out that wouldn't have.
Okay, and that worked in your favor.
Yeah. I think it's remarkable with less than $1,000 to have gotten 5%, above 5% of the vote in a federal election against 20 million.
When it was the most expensive race in the country.
It was insane. I mean, the ads were just so obnoxious, and I just decided, when I got into this campaign, I'm like, I am not going to do any things I hate about politics. So instead of campaign signs, I told people to print things out on their regular printer and put them in their window with tape and recycle them at the end of the election season. I told people not to give me money. I told them instead to put it into businesses and charities through Maine Raising. And I won't bore you too much with that, but it's a way to change politics for good. And that was the most exciting part for me of ranked choice voting, is we could make politics good and kind and humane, and we could focus on collaborative law. And that's what we should have.
How many people do you think voted Tiffany Bond 1, Will Hoare 2, or vice versa?
I don't know that one, because I don't know Will's voters that well. Okay. Will's probably the candidate I know the best. We talk the most of the candidates most likely, but
You can keep going.
I know. I just paused because I didn't want to like be mid-sentence and have it be somebody walking through the shot. And I figure you'll edit out the little sidebar. Is the beeping? Is that a battery dying or anything?
Yeah, it was, but I took care of it.
Okay.
It was mine.
Okay. Good. Just making sure.
Yeah.
So, as far as I totally lost the question, Will Hoare's votes. Yeah. I don't know Will Hoare's votes. He's going to know his voter base better than I will. I mean, I would hope.
Did you think there's a lot of people who voted you or Will number one and then picked either the Democrat or Republican, traditional candidate, so to speak? Or do you think it's somebody who's going to go, if I'm going independent number one, I'm going independent number two, and those are really my last choices?
So I think the people who vote independent probably trended independent. I think it was clear that Will was going to finish below me, but I don't know that would be meaningful to an independent. A lot of people who vote independent want another option. I always think it's funny when people try to like make the independents the bad guys. It's like, well, we just have a different point of view. Maybe you need to work on your campaign enough to get people who aren't interested in showing up to show up. So I think that independent is sort of its own streak. Maine in general trends independent. When I was out collecting signatures, you would be shocked how many people, when they would ask me what party I was from, I would say independent. The answer was almost universally one of two things. Oh, me too, or, well, I'm an independent, I'm just registered for whichever party for the primaries. Because I think we really identify with that sort of independent, individualistic streak, which I love about Maine.
Yeah.
Am I giving you enough material? I'm sure you're going to edit it down to like 2 sentences.
No, it's great, but I wanted to make sure I ask you all the questions I wanted to ask you. I mean, tabulation, pending any major delays, should start in the next couple of days.
We don't even have all the results back yet.
Right, and that could have its own implications too about how much you and Will both earn in the percentages, and could create potentially even a wider swing, right?
Well, I don't know how they're going to handle it. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to publish it. I'm really interested in the data. I'd like to see how many I would actually capture. What I'd really like to know is how many number twos I have, because I think if instead of ranked choice voting, we did some sort of mechanism that gave each person a value, like your number one's got X points, and your number two's got Y points, and your number three has got Z points. I think if we did that, I would actually win.
Huh? Why?
Because I think that a lot of people are really afraid of the other guy, but that's not the system they want. I think a lot of people are they don't like the other party, but so many people get trapped into this lesser of two evils, and people are looking for something to vote for. My campaign was something to vote for. It was supposed to be inspirational and aspirational, like what we could have in politics.
So what's next for Tiffany Bond?
I don't know. Well, I mean,
again?
I have a day job.
Right.
So.
Sorry, I should rephrase that. What's next for Tiffany Bond politically?
I don't know. I would really like to see this model work. I would really like to see a community-focused model become a revolution. I think a lot of people watched Bernie Sanders try to harness grassroots, but I think he did it wrong. I think there is a way to make grassroots work and make politics so good, like genuinely good, so that we get happy about election season, so that we're really supporting our communities. And that's what I want my kids to have as their legacy.